Hi, everyone. I'm Jewel Castro, and I'm here to talk about a project that I did as part of my cultural identity and art class, which my colleague Beverly Natus developed, and I'm very glad to have the opportunity to teach it every so often. And in this particular class, I worked with Rob Thorne, who is a Maori composer. I don't want to miss out on anything special about him. He's a Tonga Kuato specialist, which is ancient Maori instruments, composer, musician, performer, improviser, collaborator, and a social anthropologist based in New Zealand. He was, at the time in 2017, the creative New Zealand Jack C. Richards New Zealand School of Music composer in residence at Victoria University in Wellington. And we had met each other online. We've only met online through a colleague. In 2016, began talking about the relationship between Pacific Indigenous art and music, the processes, and I started wondering how could we translate that into part of my class so that folks could understand how does an Indigenous person work? Where does that come from? How is it passed down through generations? And that's how we began this project. So in 2017, October, we began a project that was a few days running. It was to connect ancient Maori sound with contemporary visual arts in 3 collaborative studio projects as part of the School of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, Cultural Identity and Art, and we opened it up to the campus. This 3-component workshop began first with using rocks and all kinds of things that we could find on the land to improvise and work with him musically. Then we did a performance piece where we were interacting with his sounds and having movement through the classroom. And then in the end, we conducted this, I think it was about a 25-foot mural, and we are working in response to the sounds that he makes. I did not bring the recording of it, but I can provide that information if you email me. But everything that you're seeing that the students are producing here are in response to the highs and the lows and the pitches and the movements and the repetition of sound that's going on. And the whole process was to help them understand how an Indigenous person was working intuitively, not only through the sounds, the music that we know, but also through the marks that they made on things like tapa cloth and other kinds of materials. In order to combine the 2 things, we did them in concert together. And so as you're seeing the students in process. We had also other folks who were not students participate, but at this point, the mural took place a couple of days later. We had a 2-hour workshop with Rob Thorne, and so a couple of days later, we just kept looping a particular piece that he had played for us. The mural is developing throughout these images. Some of the people were from the class, some people came in that were not from the class to help work on it. We're blending, everyone is responding, just gut level responses to the sounds that they're hearing him make. And that is instilling in them an Indigenous way of being, where we are responding to percussion. We're responding to the sounds that are made through the bones of birds as he blew them, conch shells, particular instruments that were ancient to the Maori. And so instead of developing something like a tapa cloth, we're developing our own imagery through contemporary media, which in this case was charcoal and white chalk. So on the top and the bottom were stations where different students had been working. We still have some here, again, some that were in the class, some that were not, that came to join us again. They simply had to, if they heard repetition, then they repeated certain symbols for themselves and explained later what they meant to them. Here we're displaying it for ourselves to see if there's anything that needs to be finished. Here are some of the students that were, this is the finished piece. And it's kind of displaying a cosmos that they were sensing and blending into one another as they were working. And then this piece was displayed in the Dugan building. So they were hearing water, they were hearing flights of birds, they were hearing rotating instruments, and they were responding to that intuitively throughout. And that was giving them the experience of what it meant to be an Indigenous Pacific Islander. And they all came away from it feeling, I mean, they still talk about it today. So what I think was important about that was to understand, what does cultural identity mean? And a cultural identity and art are so related, especially in the Pacific. So I thought it was an excellent demonstration of how you can communicate with the student. What is the process? How do we speak just using imagery and responding to sound? Thank you.